Hey everyone, Suri here, and welcome back to another week of Dark Season defense matches. I decided to make a couple of minor updates this week. Giving Hel sturdy impact is something I've been thinking about for a while. She doesn't get much use out of distant counter while Felix is covering her with Farsave, and impact makes her a lot more threatening to leave alive, especially with lunge, which makes her extremely disruptive. Rashad, meanwhile, is experimenting with Windsweep and Fatal Smoke. While I really like null fallout for her, it doesn't do much against Edelgards or Bonfire Hectors who can just one-shot her on the counterattack. Surviving the combat helps the AI prioritize her attack, and also lets her apply Fatal Smoke, which really shuts down a lot of tanking strategies. I might give her Mirror Impact at some point to help her handle magical opponents as well. I did make one more update early in the week, and finally used Trait Fruits to give Eldigan a defense asset. The extra couple of points help him handle even the most highly invested Milas outside her bonus weeks, when I'll probably give him a Fortress skill to help keep him immune. Overall, the defense held up really well. Outside of one clean loss that prompted the Trait Fruits, we had another solid wall of successes this week. It's good to see these kinds of results ahead of getting a new Dark Mythic, since it gives me a good base to fall back on if the experiments don't pan out as well as I'd like. So let's get to the first match. So this was a fun way to start the week. They brought along not one, but two Fallen Edelgards in their bonus weeks, along with a Brave Edelgard as another backup tank, and a Summer Byleth to help clean things up once the initial engagement is done. Fallen Edelgard's a very, very powerful unit, and having two of them like this is probably enough to break their way through most defenses pretty effortlessly. They take just a turn to let the Edelgards transform before plunking them in range of the front line and saying go. Unfortunately, that doesn't actually end very well here, since, well, Rashad's Windsweep lets her attack into them safely and apply the Fatal Smoke and the counterattack prevention, and then get danced for another free attack. And when the Edelgards can't self-heal, they start actually getting very breakable. Eliwood gets another safe attack here on the other Edelgard, which panics her and drags her into range of Hel, who does another solid chunk of damage and drags her even further back. Her Brimman can just demolish her.
My path ends here.
Unfortunately, Felix can't get in range of the other Edelgard, and they do decide to keep going here. Brave Edelgard can't really get a lot done to Felix, though. He's got a lot of defense. And here we actually see why Fatal Smoke is just so good against Fallen Edelgard. Not being able to heal after that combat actually keeps her below 25%. And once Edelgard's below 25% health, her entire kit goes offline. She loses her self-healing, her damage reduction, her special fighter, her wary fighter, and it makes her a lot easier to knock out. And from there, well, Edelgard can't stop Rashad from windsweeping her, so Rashad gets another free attack, and Hel actually gets to finish this Edelgard off.
Accept your death. I've done all I can.
And while we can't get in range to attack anything else, that's enough for them to surrender. This one was a little unfortunate to see, but it had to happen at some point, and it's a good way to convince me to invest the Trait Fruits into Eldigan. They also brought along a really impressive Arvis. I'd like to build mine at some point. But this Mila is the reason they were able to handle the defense the way they did. It's rare to see Milas with that many Dragonflowers invested, but I guess some people have enough infantry flowers to spare for that. The Legendary Cloud's also a very good way to enable hit-and-run approaches. The gravity effect from Fallen Star is just very, very good at that, especially when you can isolate the only dancer on the team. And, well, the damage reduction means that he can initiate onto almost anything safely. Yep, and then from there it's just an easy hit and run. Without Eldigan being able to dance, they don't have to worry much about any threat ranges. And while they don't get to isolate Eldigan here, they can pick off Hell, which is actually really important since it prevents any potentially unpredictable dances from happening, and means they can just retreat pretty safely here. And well, at this point, Brandon's very exposed, and they can just finish him off with Dagger. And with Eldigan isolated again, they don't really have to worry much about threat ranges. They can just bait Eliud with Claude, and that's really all that can happen. Claude is fast enough here to avoid getting doubled by Eliud, which is a bit unfortunate. Now that Hell actually has Lunge, I might end up giving him a lull just to try and help him double even really speedy opponents. Yeah, and well, Rashad can't get much done on her own here. So from here it's pretty easy for them to clean things up. Claude doesn't have any problems dealing with Eliud. And Dagger continues to dodge through Felix's Farsave to help them clear up the rest of the threats on the team. Yep. And from here, Dagger can handle Felix pretty well, or at least get him low enough for someone else to finish off.
I won't back down.
And then Eldigan on his own really isn't an issue for Arvis to handle.
Hellfire upon you!
It was a really well played match, although I don't know how well it would have worked out if they couldn't use Mila to isolate Eldigan, so I'm not too worried about it. It's always nice to bounce back from a failure with a success, and this team brought along a pretty impressive Noe. I'm not sure about bonus doubler for her A skill. I think she'd be better off with a stance, for example, and something like Dragon Wall or No Follow-Up would do a lot of work for her B slot, but those are pretty rare skills to have still, so. They also brought along this Guinevere as a backup, just to help clean out any problem cases, along with a plus 10 summoner supported heir in her bonus week, who's actually a very solid combat unit in her own right at that point. Their Mila, on the other hand, is not quite as invested into defense as the previous one, and it wouldn't really have mattered if she was, since Eldigan got his trait fruits at this point. They take a turn just to clear out the structures in the front, and then move Noe up onto towards the defense tiles. I don't know if they really thought about the panic manner though, since leaving it unbroken means that it shuts down Noe's bonus doubler for free. Of course, Eliud would have panicked her here anyway, but it would have helped her do a little more damage at least. And once she's in range of Hell, her shot can attack into her pretty safely. Which just completes the suite of debuffs and leaves her panicked, flashed, and unable to heal herself.
You're still here?
And Rashad's Glimmer takes another pretty solid bite out of her health, and at that point she's low enough for Hell to come in and finish off. And once all that's done, Eliud finally gale forces over to Peony and picks up another easy knockout. They decide to keep going here. Guinevere can finish Eliud off without any problems. But after that, they are a bit stuck. Docker can't actually finish Hell off here, thanks to the miracle effect. And they might have attacked in here without looking at the combat forecast, since, well, air attacking into Felix is not going to end well. And well, from there's not a lot they can really do. Rashad can finish off Docker. And then she gets danced. Bremond can deal with Mila without any real problems. And even though the rest of the team can't quite get in range of Guinevere, and there's not a lot she can do on her own. This one was fun to see, actually. I don't think I've seen a Corrin with Dragon Wall in AR yet, but it's a really cool idea for her. While it doesn't let her pre-charge her Negating Fang, it does give her an option in case Negating Fang isn't charged, since it actually provides even more damage reduction than Negating Fang does. And it makes her a lot less reliant on the special in general, which is really useful when she's trying to deal with guard effects and things that prevent her counterattack. They spent a couple of turns setting up here. I think they were hoping Lyn would be able to crack the defense open with Bolt Tower's help. But Felix is fairly Linja-proof at this point, even with Bolt Towers involved. So they adapt their strategy and decide to break the Panic Manor before letting Corrin tank from the defense tile. Unfortunately, while Dragon Wall is pretty effective at just keeping Corrin alive, and well, Hollywood can't actually do a whole lot of damage to Corrin to start with, he does still panic her and drag her into range of Hell. And those in-combat debuffs are enough for Bremond to move in and finish her off.
I'll crush you.
The future.
And, well, with Corrin out of the way, Hollywood can go and pick up Peony.
Time to sleep.
And even though the rest of the team can't catch up here, those losses are enough for them to surrender the match and move on. It's been a while since I've seen a Winter Altina show up in my defenses. And to be fair, the combination of Duo Micaiah and Winter Altina, it's probably a free win against almost any team that isn't using a Duo's hindrance structure. The extra true damage that it gives Altina is just... it's a lot, especially when she's hitting twice before anything can actually attack her. And they are buffing her attack up pretty heavily with Freya and Peony on top of that. They take a few turns at the start just to break their way up to the Dark Shrine to avoid getting Altina's defense debuffed. Once they do that, they pull back and get ready to start the fight. I do think they would have had a much better time of this if they had used Micaiah to attack Felix before they start this, but they just activate their duo skills and count on Altina to handle everything else. Unfortunately, even with that true damage, it's just not enough for Altina to handle Felix.
This is your name on it.
But the gifts.
And well, once he gets that out of the way, he can jump forward and pick up another knockout on air.
Death comes to me.
They actually use Freya to attack Felix here, which was a little odd. I'm pretty sure Micaiah could have finished him off, but they make that attack before surrendering and moving on. This was a fun match to see. It's a rematch from the person I ran into on offenses, who's running the Robin and Morgan crew. And this is a really impressive Morgan. I like this build a lot on her. I think it turns her into a really solid ranged tank. And backing her up with the Fallen male Morgan gives them a really good pair of ranged tanks to work with on this team. It is interesting to see a non-mythic Tamar too. The sabotage attack doesn't do too much extra for them, but it is enough to fully enable Morgan's weapon as long as he gets any kind of buff to work with. And Ronin just helps complete the weapon triangle of ranged tanks. They spend a few turns just setting up here. I think they might have been hoping to attack in and pick off a target before the fight really starts. But they decide against it and just have Morgan tank from below this fortress. Unfortunately, while Morgan's weapon does prevent follow-up attacks, he's not terribly fast on his own, which means that Bold Fighter is enough for Felix to break through that and double him anyway.
Master Krima, I'm sorry.
The rest of the team can't catch up here, and they decide to keep going. I think they were hoping to pick off Hell, but Robin needs a couple of attacks to do that. So they back up and manage to get out of range for another turn. From here, Robin can finish Hell off. It takes her 2 attacks, but Peony gets her the second one. And then they decide to send Dogger all the way into our team to finish Felix off before he can cause them any more problems. I think they expected the team to attack Dogger here, but Elliot just goes after Air instead.
A bad omen.
And, well, Rashot's in range to go and finish off Peony.
Time to sleep.
which lets Bremen step forward and finish Robin off.
Our bonds give me strength.
I take my stand here.
No. Weird twist of fate. Dogger ends up being one of the ones who survives the turn. They try to keep going here, but the match is pretty much over at this point. Dogger can finish off Bremen, but Ronan can't say the same for Elliewood. And, well, once Elliewood has his Gale Force available, he has no problems just running straight through Ronan and going after Dogger next.
What? No way.
I honestly expected to be seeing more of Fallen Edelgard on defenses this week, but this was only the second team that brought her along. They're also backing her up with a Linja and a Fallen Julia, just as some ranged firepower to help pick things off. And, well, Julia's probably here specifically to help handle Hel, who's actually pretty much impossible for Fallen Edelgard to kill on her own. As long as she's using Mystic Boost, at least. They take a turn to move into position, and then just end up plonking Edelgard right there, in range of the entire team. It doesn't really go so well. Rashad's able to sweep her pretty easily, which applies that full set of debuffs. And at that point, Elliewood can just drag her forward very safely. And once she's out of position, Brem can just step in and finish the job.
My path ends here.
The rest of the team can't get in range to do anything, but they just surrender anyway and move on. Brave Ike Lucina teams are kind of a staple of Aether raids, and have been for a while. They're very effective together, and I do think that the Nazi Disrupt QR bike is probably a better fit for him right now, even if it does give him a little bit more of a problem against Bramamund. They're also using a Guinevere on their team, who is probably their answer to Brahmins that would give Ike problems. But overall, I think this is a good, flexible team. It's got answers to a lot of the usual threats that they'll run into, and I think it has a pretty good time clearing most things, at least. Unfortunately, just shoving Guinevere forward to try and tank all of the ranged doesn't work so well when Felix can just step forward. And without no follow-up, she's not able to survive the second hit. Elliewood gets danced forward, and, well, he can't knock Ike out, he does drag him out of position. On the other hand, nobody else can get in range from there, so he's pretty safe. They keep going. Eric can pick off Elliewood without too many problems, thanks to her bonus week stats. And they can have Ike move forward and attack Rashad, but he's not quite fast enough to double her. which means that she gets to apply Fatal Smoke to him for free. And that ends up being pretty important here, since it means that he can't heal with this Aether.
It ends here.
And once Hell lunges him out of the way, Rajat can move in and pick off Peony. Before Bram steps in and finishes Ike off.
I'm sorry.
And then Hell gets danced and doesn't actually swap Rajat back, which is a bit odd, but those losses are enough for them to surrender. This was a fun one to see. It's actually been pretty rare to see young La Rochelle on an offense team. Most people seem to be favoring her on defense teams, which is reasonable. But I think she's actually a pretty good enabler for Ninja Lin, who's sometimes can run into problems with being able to knock something out in 2 hits, and being able to dodge a counterattack means she can attack 4 times safely most of the time, and there's not a lot that survives 4 hits from her. They also kept pretty lucky with this catapult sniping the healing tower, but this isn't a team that's going to be trying to bait Bramond out. I think they were hoping to have La Rochelle handle Felix, but she can't quite do it. So they try to have Freya do this instead. Unfortunately, they end up running face first into the real gravity trap, and that's enough for them to just surrender and move on. This was good to see at the end of the week, but at the same time, I do feel bad about winning a match against someone who doesn't have any ladders left. Hopefully I didn't end up costing them a spot in the vault for the week. Oh well. They did end up bringing along a really impressive Noe. Combined with this Corrin, she can probably handle a lot of things they run into on defenses. And of course they've got their bonus week Fallen Edelgard along for the ride. They get things going on the first turn here, but baiting the entire team like this tends to go poorly, and, well, as it turns out, Bram can just step in and take an OA down.
I take my stand here.
And from there he gets danced forward and can pick off the Corrin as well.
This can't be.
And with 2 of their major threats already down, the fight's not looking too good for them from here. Eliwood can get danced forward, and, well, he gets to Gale Force his way through air, and Peony, which leaves Edelgard on her own. They do keep going from here, which is completely understandable since they don't have any ladders left to work with. And I think if they had gotten their bolt tower fully upgraded, they might have been able to pull this off. Unfortunately, when it's only got 40 damage behind it, it can't quite set Hell down to 1 hit point. And while Edelgard can tank her way through Bramimund and finish him off with a bonfire afterwards, Hell not being at 1 hit point is a problem for her, since with Mystic Boost, Edelgard will never actually be able to knock her out. She can knock out Eliwood with the bonfire, though.
Crumble to ash.
And, well, Hell's quite happy to just lunge Edelgard forward.
Crumble to ash.
Felix can survive this thanks to the guard on his weapon. And then Eldigan can actually do just enough damage to not dance.
I am absolute.
And he can tank a bonfire from her, while also protecting Felix from her. They end up just attacking into Eldigan twice here. And they might have been better off going after Felix if they wanted to secure as many knockouts as they can. But from here, Rashad can windsweep her and disable the damage reduction from Armored Wall, which lets Felix attack in, and Boltfighter gives him a bonfire, which lets him finish her off.
My path ends here.
It was a pretty good week of defenses overall. It's good to see the extra investment working out well, and, well, the only loss of the week was something that was easy enough to fix. I am expecting to see a Dark Mythic on the New Heroes banner coming out next week, and we should actually get the trailer for it a few hours after this video goes live. I'm expecting it to be Note, which should open up some interesting possibilities for defenses, and I'm looking forward to experimenting with the defense. It should be fun. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed the video, good luck with your own matches, and I'll see you next time.